Right, it is Sunday, day 5 at Origins. We have everything packed up and ready to load into the car. Luckily, we have in and out privileges at the place where we're parking, so we're gonna load up the car, make sure everything's out of here before checkout time, and then we have pretty much all day that we can explore the hall and kind of finish up looking at the last few things before leaving Columbus. No publisher meetings today necessarily, but I am still going to try and get around and talk to a few of them. So we've got something to show you there. But yeah, join us on the last day.
So this is Dice Devices. In this game, everyone's a mad scientist, but there can only be one in this town, so it's up to you to use your laboratory, your robots, and your trusty assistant Igor to build and upgrade your Doomsday weapon to incapacitate others for they incapacitate you. Don't worry, there's no player elimination. If you do get hit, your character card flips over, and Igor comes to revive you, losing your Igor's ability and the ability to shoot at other players. Otherwise, you do all your normal turns, where you're rolling dice and activating sectors in your lab, gaining resources and activating devices to do area control out on this center board. After you roll for your lab, you take the dice that you roll and you apply them to the sectors. Whoever is dominant can choose to buy the device or gain scrap and bring that back to their lab for further engine building. After you've done that, now you can send your robots out to that scrap yard, with your goal being set collecting colors. Once you get your first set of colors, you can start shooting at other players. The more sets you have, the more powerful your shots are, and the more times you're shooting. Your goal is to keep everyone down while you're up and running. There's a lot more to the game, like Igor blueprints, banking, augments, sector modifiers, advanced cards. I can go on all day, but there's more information online. You can see it at OrigamyWorldGames.com or go to the Kickstarter, and it's up to be followed now.
Okay, so this is Charcuterie, the board game. In this board game, we are going to be hosting a charcuterie night for our friends. And what hosting consists of is taking this bag, you're gonna play host. In a 5 to 6 player game, everybody will host once. In a 2 to 4 player game, everybody will host twice. When you host, you'll draw tiles out of the bag. So in let's say a 3 player game, you draw 12 tiles out. And then that player is going to arrange those into those groups as they see fit. So it's an I split, you choose mechanism. So in this case, I would put these 4 ingredients together, and now we have our 3 groups. Once I'm satisfied with that, the player to my left will draft 1 group, you would take the second, and I would get whatever's left. The rules for placement are pretty simple. You cannot overhang the board. Everything needs to fit within the confines of your board. And when you're mixing ingredients and layering them, you want to make sure you're not covering up more than 50% of any tile. So you need to be able to see what that base ingredient tile looks like at the end of the game. Players are going to be arranging these tiles to score points on these 6 scoring cards. So there's 1 for each type of ingredient in the game. So for an example, the vegetable card in this game is going to give us 4 points for every vegetable and cheese that are adjacent. The dip card is going to give us some variety points. So if you get all 4 types of dip in the game, you'll get 15 points. So players are trying to balance what they are going to be giving their opponents when they make those groupings versus what they want for themselves. Additionally, every player is going to be dealt 2 secret recipe cards each game. You'll keep 1, discard the other. This is going to give you a little bit of direction of what you're looking for on your board. So this player wants a lot of hummus. This player over here wants to keep it keto. They don't want any bread or crackers, which is a crime. And you're going to be going through that once or twice based on the number of players. The neat thing is with this game, you can rearrange your board as often as you want. So you're not locked into anything. If you're not getting the tiles that you want, you can pivot into a different scoring card. You can start working on different combinations. At the end of the game, you'll get about a minute to get your board how you want it to look. Then you'll let everybody know you're ready. We'll get our nice handy dandy scoring block out here. Everybody will go through their point scoring for each individual card. You'll score your private objective, and whoever has the highest score wins. Plays in about 20 to 30 minutes, and it's great for gamers and non-gamers. It has a lot of broad appeal because of the subject matter, and we've been having a really great time with it at the con.
And this is out now?
It's being released at this convention. It will be retail release around Gen Con.
Perfect.
Yeah, so we're Forgeborne Games. This is Terminus Frontier. It's a game we're aiming to launch on Kickstarter at the end of this year. It's a sci-fi campaign game, cooperative for 1 to 4 players, where each player controls a drift hunter as a part of a squad. You're part of a militia at the beginning of the campaign, kind of patrolling the galaxy in the fringes of Terminus Frontier. It's kind of a lawless region where space pirates, cartels, and mega corporations are vying for power. So the game plays as a mix between Gloomhaven and a skirmish battle game like Kill Team. It's a squad-based game, so each player's got a hunter you control on the board. In this skirmish battle, you're fighting against space pirates. There's a squad of the yellow squad they're called Scrappers, and you just kind of jetpack down trying to take out the butcher who's trying to take out these colonists. So the game works on a skill card-based system. Each player has a deck of cards that's unique to their character. You draw 5 cards. These cards going to dictate your actions for that round that you could choose from. So for example, this card, Rapid Fire, lets the Vanguard pay 1 action point, gain 1 threat, and perform 2 shoot actions, either Impulse or Burst. The game has a flexible weapon slot system, 2 weapon slots. The Vanguard starts with a pulse rifle and a mono sword. So if I did this action, it would let me shoot either in pulse or burst mode. So there's a selective fire system. Pulse lets me do 1 very accurate shot with over 1 ammo card. Now that would do 3 damage to the target. Now this deck has 7 cards in it. So if I did burst mode, I would be revealing 2 cards. So now I've done 5 damage, but I'm wasting 1 ammo because it's a 3-round burst. Not that accurate. Now I could also do full auto where I would add that damage, but then I'm burning 2 more. And as you'll see, I'm depleting my ammo deck. Now once this is depleted, I can't shoot my gun anymore. So I've got to do a reload action, which I would shuffle this up, make a new deck of cards. That costs 1 action. Players tend to like this ammo system. It's diceless combat. You can also do clever things like aim your deck. So that would let me peek at the top 2 cards. Now I like this result, but if I didn't, I would put these on the bottom. So now I've got kind of a bit of prediction on what my ammo deck is going to do. The second thing to know about this game is we have 3 main mission types. So skirmish, where it's squad versus squad. You might have different objectives, but those kind of play like the Kill Team type squad battles. We also have boss battles, where instead of fighting against a squad of guys, you're fighting against one really big boss who's so large, they have different hit locations. So every enemy in the game has a card like this, and there's multiple levels to them. This one is only 1, but it goes up to 4. Now there's different hit locations, as you can see here: the front, the left, the right, the rear. This guy has a weakness in the rear. If you attack from the back, he gets less armor. But the clever thing about this is you can target these locations if you're on that side. And as you do enough damage, you will break that location, revealing a weakness, so he will get less armor for the rest of the battle. So it's kind of, you gotta strategize, try to figure out how to get to weaken this guy in order to do enough damage to him. There is an aggro system called Threat. So let me talk real quick. As at the beginning of every round, the team will select squad positions using their tokens. So players will go on odd numbered slots, and enemies will go on even numbered slots driven by the AI cards. This particular one, this enemy scrappers are going on 8 because you're getting a jump on them. And as you select a slot, you will gain Threat. Threat allows you to do some aggro management. Enemies will usually target the highest threat. In this mission, colonists start at 3, so you want to get higher threat than them if you want to protect them. Skill cards also increase your threat as you go along. And the last thing I want to talk about are the progression of the game. So you start off with these kind of basic weapons, but as you gain loot, you gain credits, you can buy additional weapons. There's a lot of weapons in this game. There are some really cool weapons you can get that upgrade your damage. So this Hyperfire pulse rifle has an additional ammo card and a flexible upgrade slot. Upgrade slots lets you buy additional ammo cards to customize how you want to build your gun. There are things like Soul Stealer Sword, Fusion Maw Gun, Disintegrator Pistol. The Witchfire Pistol makes enemies explode when you kill them, doing damage to guys around them. You can even have a Drill Fist. There's also armor slots in the game. So I mentioned there are 4 hit locations. You got 4 different hit health items. So if you are this guy, you only got 1 health on your head. So you may want to get yourself a helmet, because getting headshotted is not a good idea. The helmets upgrade your hand size, also your health. Some of them may give you passives, like this one allows you to take more smoke clouds, because there are smoke grenades in the game that ups your sight. Frag grenades, there's grenade launchers, shadow boots give you free movement. Yeah, there's a lot of equipment in this game, so you customize your character through weapons, armor, small gear slots, upgrading your skill deck. As you go through the campaign, you unlock new characters, so that would give you a new character board, a new skill deck, a new way to play. Each character has 3 skill trees. This particular character's got Survival, Shadow Agent, and Sharpshooter, and you can kind of decide how you want to build your character. Do you want to do a mix of skill trees? Do you want to go deep into one skill tree? As you unlock cards, you will add them to your skill deck. You can subtract cards from your deck, do some deck building in that area. The last cool thing we'll talk about are the trauma cards. So if you lose all your health and you go down to the X, your hand may break, your head may break. It's not good. You may get an arm fracture. So this is an arm trauma that goes into your deck. It's a persistent one that will go into your deck. Until you go to a med bay and get that healed out. You're going to be a bit damaged because that carries through the campaign. Severe traumas are not good. Those are chest traumas, and they usually mean you're out of action for the round, but if you get really lucky, you may be bleeding out, and then your ally can kind of revive you. So that's Terminus Frontier. I forgot to mention the 3rd type of mission, which is stealth. Enemies will walk around the map using patrol routes. So instead of trying to target you, they will walk around the map following a patrol route. Now, as you are playing the game, you're trying to go sneak through the mission, kind of like Metal Gear Solid style. Instead of trying to kill everybody, you're trying to get to the objective. Try not to get detected by this guy. Inevitably, you've got to eliminate the patrols sneakily, because they've got a vision arc where they can see this way. And so you can sneak up behind them and try to take them out before they can see you. So that's the game. We're playing about 50 missions in the box. The core path to finish the campaign is about 10, with a lot of side content. And you're not going to play all the missions in one go. Depends on which path you take, who you ally with, who you work against. That's Terminus Frontier. We're looking to launch at the end of the year on Kickstarter. And we're going to have 2 pledge levels. One is the standee tier in the low hundreds, and then the miniature tier around 200. So thanks for watching.
Yeah.
So this is Seti. It's a heavy-duty sort of science Euro that's about searching for signs of life beyond the galaxy of our local solar system. Seti was actually designed by an amateur astronomer, so a lot of the themes and artwork and the vibes of the game is very much focused on like real science. A lot of the cars in the game are actual missions that happened in the past, present, sort of near future of science discovery. So in this game, you're essentially looking for signs of life, and you are science institutions that are doing research at different areas of the galaxy. You will eventually, over the course of the game, discover signs of life, but because this is not a sci-fi game, the kinds of life you discover are really more like giant asteroids that have, some mysteriousness about them, or this is to be determined because it's not finished, but, for example, like signs of flora and fauna on a distant planet. So it's not really like aliens with green heads and stuff. It's more about actual kind of plausible scientific discovery. So there's 5 of these archetypes that you'll be looking for. You can shuffle them up and you get 2 per game. So you're going to get randomized discoveries that you're not going to know what they are until you finally uncover them. Each discovery comes with its own set of mechanics that layer onto the main game mechanics, so you get a lot of variability between how those combinations play out. But yeah, so in this course of the game, you're doing sort of focusing on 3 areas of research primarily that kind of tie into the rest of the game. This first one is represented by sort of like this exploded galaxy view of our solar system, and also ties into the central board. So one of the things you can do on your turn, and you have lots of different options of what you can do, but in this particular instance, you have the ability to spend resources to launch probes from Earth, and then you can also potentially spend energy to move the probes around the galaxy to travel to different planets. On future turns, you might, for example, want to then go to the planet to study and do some research. So let's say I've been over here, I'm going to Jupiter. When I arrive on Jupiter, I've got some options. I can pay some basic resources to put my probe into orbit, which allows me to gain some victory points and also some upgrades. So that's going to be useful depending on what you're trying to do on a given round. Or alternatively, I can spend a little bit more to then land on the planet instead to get more victory points. It's also one of the only ways among some certain other options to get these yellow discoveries. So this would be like the first sign of life, and I don't have all the tokens out, so I'm going to use this instead. But if I did this, I would then mark that for my player. I would get some extra bonus points, and now this is 1/3 of the way unlocked. So all the players will be working towards this cumulatively, but we're also playing our own game where we're trying to get the most points by the end of 5 rounds. So this is one piece of the puzzle has a worker placement aspect to it. Also, you can land on moons that give you lots of big bonuses, but you have to unlock some more technology before you can actually do that. It's not available at the start of the game. So that's one piece of the puzzle. The next is a sort of big outer ring. So this represents a distant nebula that are too far away to reach with our probes. So the way we study those nebulas, we point our telescopes or satellite arrays from Earth to focus on certain segments of the galaxy to study them. And initially, you're going to be focusing mainly on where Earth is pointing, but you can upgrade your technologies that give you a little more wiggle room, so you can have a little more options, and also you can do multiple things in a particular action. But for this first purpose, let's say we're just going to study it here. So you're going to start by gathering some data, and that was going to go over to your player board, to your supercomputer for later, which I'll get to the next section. And then what I'm going to do is to represent that you're actually studying an area. You're going to mark that you've been studying there, and this has a bit of an area control element where when this fills up, whoever has the most tokens of their color there gets the bonus ability to then choose one of the purple discoveries to find. In this case, I'll go over here to get some victory points and some prestige. Now this is 2/3 of the way to unlocking this, and we just mentioned we're getting some data from doing these discoveries. So going over here to our player board, you will accumulate data over time that can then be used as a bonus action at certain points on your turn to fill in some of these goodies to get some of the resources that you'll have there. And you don't start off with a lot in your board, but you can unlock them using different upgrades. But when this reaches the far end, when you fill this all up, you'll reset this to refresh your engine so you can do it again. But then you're going to discover this blue sign of life. I don't have my tokens for me, so let's use it this one. Then you get to mark one of the available options, but in this case I'm going to mark this one. So this has been discovered now. We're going to flip it over and you're going to discover, it's the Oumuamua asteroid. So what this does in this particular instance, it adds a puzzle piece that gets added to the board. You clips in here and now you can land on the asteroid to study it further. It also adds some cards that have unique effects based on sort of that particular discovery. And there's also some other additional victory points, other things you can get as you continue your research. So this will be one of 2 potential things you're going to unlock in this game, and there's 5 different kind of tokens of this that have these different little options on them. Now, the other thing I can mention is upgrades. So each of these upgrades tiers tie into some of the different things I explained already. So this relates to your landing on planets and upgrading your probes, you can do better things with them. This, the purple color corresponds to sort of your telescope and improves your ability to do more with that as you're playing the game. And these blue ones are basically just like things you slot into your computer to get better effects. So when anyone upgrades their player board with one of these technologies, it causes the solar system to rotate. So you'll move this token, and then whichever ring it passes through will tell you which one to rotate. So in this case, I'm just rotating the first ring. But if I was doing here, you'd rotate to the top two, and the other ones you'd rotate all three. And what this does is it changes the configuration of the galaxy, it changes the location of planets, and also can move other people's probes around. And that can be really helpful, or it can be kind of a hindrance depending on what you're trying to do. So paying attention to that can be very important to the strategy of the game. And then kind of winding down, sort of the last few things. In order to do all this stuff, you need resources. So you start off with some basic stuff. You start off with some money, you start off with some energy, and you start off with some basic cards to use. Over the course of the game, you're going to be spending those things to do some of these activities. But cards in particular can be used in 4 different ways. So the first way you can use a card is certain effects will let you take a card from your hand and bank it underneath your engine here. So you can eventually expand over time and have more money each round, so you have more stuff you can do. That's one way a card can be used. Some of the other ways is the cards also represent the actual missions. So a lot of these are based on real historical missions that have happened past, present, and near future. And so you can ditch a card just to get a quick effect, go and get rid of it. Or most of the cases you're going to be using spending money to do the actual mission itself. And some of these have bonus things you can try for. Some of them give you end game scoring. And some of them just have extra effects you can do. And they're typically pretty powerful. So that's one of the main ways you're going to use it. Cards can also be used when you're upgrading your signals. You can sometimes have effects that play off of the signals that are in the offer to give you bonus options to research in other quadrants of the galaxy when you're using your telescope. That's kind of the overall of the game. Like there's some additional end game scoring options you can get as you make progress towards on your victory point track. You can claim some of these things to get bonus scoring. They're also modulars, so they flip around, you can shuffle them up. There's a little bit of variable replay. Things are a little bit not the same every single game. And yeah, that's Seti in a nutshell. It plays 1 to 4 players. It's about 40 minutes per player. And yeah, it's going to be 13 plus. It'll be available for $69.95. Later on, launching at Essen in Europe. And it'll have a US launch around PAX Unplugged typically. So, yeah.
In 2024 or 2025?
Yeah, this year, yeah.
This year,
so, yeah,
fantastic.
This is going straight to retail. It's not on Kickstarter. We're finishing it up and we'll be getting ready to launch it in the coming months.
All right, yeah, this is Buttons and Bugs. It's a single-player version of Gloomhaven. It's an entirely new scenario, or a new campaign. There's 20 scenarios in the campaign. You play as one of the original 6 characters from Gloomhaven. And just like Gloomhaven, you have a hand of cards that determine what you do, whether you move or attack. In Buttons and Bugs, because it's a smaller condensed version, you only have 4 cards that you start with. After you play the 2 cards, then you can actually flip them over and access their B side. So that gives you more time, more turns to take. But just like in Gloomhaven, you always play the top of one card, the bottom of the other one, and then your initiative is determined by the numbers in the middle. So whichever one you want to be your initiative, you just put that one on top when you play it. The enemies, they have initiative as well, but instead of a deck of cards, they just have 3 different options, and you determine what initiative they go on by rolling this die. So for example, that one, he would go on initiative 70, move 2, and attack 2.
Very cool.
Yeah, you do the same thing with your attack modifiers too. So instead of having an attack modifier deck, you have this table, you also roll the die, and turn I got a minus, so my attack does 1 less damage.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love the little tiny miniatures.
Yeah, they're a big favorite. So
This one is out now, right?
it is out now. You can get it here. It's $20.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We are leaving Origins, sadly. Boo. I had a great time. I thought this was a really fun year. It felt like we got to meet a lot more people than we normally do at these things.
Yeah.
Got to hang out with some really cool people. Game of the convention. What was the favorite one that we played?
That we played. So, right, most of the games we played were not maybe brand new games, but more new to us games.
Right.
And tough. There are some really great ones. I mean, tough call between Barcelona, Kutnahora, and Hegemony. I'd say I have to really think on what I like the most.
I think for me, Hegemony was the standout. Just because it felt. I mean, don't get me wrong. I really liked Kutnahora. Was great. I thought it did some really cool things. Barcelona was very good as well, but just because Hegemony felt so different, right? It felt very unique to anything else that I'd played before. I think that's part of what made it stand out so much for me. Honestly, Xylotar
was really fun too.
Was kind of a standout for me too. I wasn't expecting much out of that one because honestly, I didn't like the look of the cover. I knew it was a little card game, but you know I don't know. I guess it wasn't really doing itself any favors with the way that it looked. But as soon as we started playing it, I was like, this is really cool. Like the way that this game plays is really neat. It's a trick-taking game with imperfect information, and it worked, and it was a lot of fun.
It definitely was, taking that extra twist on trick-taking games where you're bidding blind and trying to win tricks. Kind of blind. It was neat.
Yeah. The blind bid was like I knew the kind of the blind trick-taking aspect of it. I did not realize that you were bidding blind kind of as well. You have some information, it's just not perfect information, but it worked super great. Like I picked up a copy this morning to bring home because I've got a feeling that Jen and Christy will probably like that one.
Yeah, it was definitely a good con for small card games to try out. I mean, besides that, we had a chance to play Sea Salt and Paper.
Yep.
Which was surprisingly really good. I don't know why I doubted it would be good, but it was really, really interesting.
Yep.
And Surfosaurus Max.
That was a really good one as well. Yep, I really liked that one. It took a minute to kind of wrap my head around, I think, but as soon as we got into it, that it's really interesting. So if you've never played Surfosaurus Max, you're essentially kind of more or less cooperatively building a poker hand, but scoring individually, which is, I guess, a concept that you kind of almost have to see to understand how that works. I felt like I didn't quite get it until we were, maybe 2 or 3 turns in, and then I started to kind of get the concept of what it was I was trying to do. Bizarre acid trip dinosaurs. I mean, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, theme-wise, it doesn't get better.
Theme is very important to that game too, obviously.
Very.
Let's see. Anything else? Anything standing out? Anything that you saw that was going to be like an upcoming release that looked interesting?
Seti looked really interesting. Now you got a chance to actually hear a little bit about it. I just saw it walking by, but definitely looked very cool on the table. Yeah,
I'm very excited about Seti. I also got a chance today to take a look at a game called Terminus Frontiers, which looks like a big epic kind of space battle-y skirmish boss battle game. Looks like there's a lot going on in it, but it has some really neat ideas on how it plays. Some things that look a little bit different from any other game like that I've played before. So, going to be keeping an eye on that one. Going to be keeping an eye on Primordial. We got a chance to play that. Let's see. That was that Wednesday night? That must have been Wednesday night.
Sounds right. Yeah. That was a really, really neat game. Really Yeah, Euro at its heart, but some really cool artwork and yeah, some interesting smooth mechanisms as well.
Yeah, I think the weight level of that one really is kind of hitting at a good level where it'll be pretty accessible for a lot of folks. So I can see that one doing well. It does kind of feel like a game that, you know, they're going to be polishing up a little bit, but I think it's got a lot of potential.
I got to play a couple of the new Queen game reimplementations.
Yep.
Played Cusco, which is the reimplementation of Bora Bora, and holds up really good. It's a really good, solid, fun game. Not a ton of changes from Bora Bora, so I think I'm happy with keeping that version and not upgrading. And then the next day I got to try Cusco. Or did I get those backwards?
I cannot keep the city now that they changed the name of them. I knew them before,
Yeah.
but now that they've changed the name of them, I don't know which one is which.
Yes. Wait, no, I played Cusco first. That's the Bora Bora one. And then I played Vienna, which is the reimplementation of La Isla.
Got it.
Which includes the original La Isla on one side of the board, and then an advanced version with a lot of really interesting things added. And that's what we played, and it was quite good. Only real criticism is the board's a little tough to read, but overall, really, really solid game. Takes La Isla to that next level, which I appreciate, but I kind of like La Isla as a nice, simple game to teach players that aren't in the mood for a really heavy game night.
Yeah.
But both of them were really solid. I'm happy to take a couple hours out and play each of those.
Still keep that kind of multi-use card system.
Exactly the same card play system. The kind of the stock market system of changing the values as well. All that was the same with just a few extra steps and hidden information and completing contracts and things like that as well. So it was very cool.
So which one was the better of the two?
I'd say Cusco is probably the better game. Just as a little meatier. There's a lot going on in that game. So I'd probably give it to that one. But as far as reimplementations go, I think Vienna took La Isla to another level while still maintaining the option to play the original.
Sure.
Where Cusco, I think, was more or less the same game with it felt like maybe some cleaned up cards mixed in.
I don't know how available La Isla is right now.
Yeah.
Is it? Do you know if it's?
It's not in print.
It's not
No,
in print,
no.
so that would be kind of a good way to. You can still get the kind of basic version and play it that way.
Yeah.
But then you also have the option to step it up, which is kind of a nice way to do it.
Yeah, and it definitely turned what was a fairly light game to a solidly medium weight game when you play the advanced mode, which is kind of my sweet spot. I like a little bit more crunchy.
Yeah, I remember liking Bora Bora quite a bit when we played it. It gave me kind of flavors of Castles of Burgundy, but crunchier.
Yeah.
But it was. I remember liking that quite a bit. So I'm curious. I don't see myself picking up any of the Queen City games, but I'm kind of glad that they're doing that for folks who never got the opportunity to play the originals.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of those originals are great games, and I don't think they've made them any worse. They've just made them different and added some new things
Right.
That are worth checking out. I mean, price may not be where a lot of people think it should be, but for that series of games, but they are very enjoyable games. And so if you get a chance to try any of them out, I definitely recommend it. The new one in the bunch so far is Marrakesh, which is
Highly
great.
recommend. Yeah.
Marrakesh jumped to the top part of my favorite Feld list for sure.
Yeah, it's up there for me. Oh, I did finally make it to the North Market today. I'd gone all week without having made it down there. Finally got there for some hot chicken takeover. I don't think I would have been able to consider it a successful trip to Origins if I hadn't made it there. So glad I got there. But yeah, we're on our way home, and I guess this is the end of the series. All right, well, I've made it back home. You know, every time you leave a convention, there's always that little bit of letdown. But it's always nice to get home and get back into your own house, own bed. But met so many great people this year, and I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody again at Gen Con.